Welcome back, gentle traveller. Tonight, we drift not through galaxies or atoms, but through something closer and older, time itself. Not the ticking kind, not the kind measured by hands or numbers, but the living kind, the turning of the seasons, the slow breathing of the earth, a rhythm older than memory, older than life. Close your eyes, if you wish. Listen beneath the hum of thought. You'll feel it, that pulse below everything, the soft exchange of warmth and chill, of light and shadow, of birth, rest, renewal, over and over again. Somewhere far beyond the ticking of clocks, the earth tilts its face just a little toward the Sunday, and that tilt, that small, patient gesture, creates everything we call time. Spring rises from the frost. Summer spills into gold. Autumn folds itself into silence. And winter wraps the world in sleep. Each one is not a chapter, but a breath. The earth inhales, exhales, and in between, life happens. We often think of the seasons as change, but really, they are return. A reminder that endings are only beginnings resting for a while. Leaves do not fall to vanish, they fall to feed what comes next. Snow does not bury, it protects. Heat does not burn, it awakens. So tonight, we'll wander through these gentle circles, through 50 soft truths about the seasons, their hidden rhythms, their quiet miracles, the way they hold us even when we forget to notice. The turning of the seasons is not outside us, it is within us. Your breath mirrors the tide of spring and winter. Your heartbeat follows the pulse of growing things. Every cell in your body carries the rhythm of renewal. You are made of this pattern, not separate, but identical. In spring, your spirit stirs. In summer, it opens. In autumn, it releases. In winter, it rests. You too are part of that great breathing. So let your breath slow now to match the earth's. Inhale as the winds rise. Exhale as they fall. Like leaves turning, like the sea beneath distant stars. There is no hurry. The planet turns whether or not we watch it. The light will come again. The dark will always make room for rest. The balance never breaks. It only bends, only flows. You are safe within that balance. You are part of its rhythm. Let your body loosen, your thoughts soften. There is no need to reach for meaning, it is already here. The seasons carry it for you. Outside, somewhere beyond your window, the night is turning. The wind is whispering through trees. A leaf drifts, landing softly on the soil it once grew from. And in that quiet exchange, the earth exhales. And you breathe with it. So listen now. Listen for the slow, circular song that never ends. It lives between the seasons. It hums beneath time itself. And as you drift with it tonight, you will feel the world breathing again. And remember that you were never apart from its rhythm. Now, let us begin our gentle journey through time's tender circle. Before the first colour returns, before the first petal opens, spring begins where no one sees. Beneath the frozen skin of the earth, life stirs quietly. Roots twitch, seeds tremble. Each grain of soil carries a whisper, a pulse that hums softly like breath beneath blankets of frost. Down there, the air is different, damp, mineral, old. The cold does not kill, it keeps secrets. Every seed remembers the warmth it once knew, waiting for the faintest touch of sunlight to wake again. This waiting is not sleep, it is listening. As the sun leans closer to the tilted earth, warmth travels downward through stone and root. Ice melts into threads of water, slipping into hidden chambers where dormant roots drink again. Scientists call this the vernal initiation, the moment when temperature and daylight cross a silent threshold. But to the earth, it feels like remembering, a return to motion, a slow reawakening of colour and breath. Tiny shoots rise in the dark, cells divide. The first pulse of chlorophyll shivers through their veins. Soon, buds swell with invisible light, and the world begins to inhale again after a long, patient exhale. Above ground, the wind changes. It smells of damp moss, thawing bark, and something faintly sweet the first green. Birds rehearse their songs before dawn. Streams begin to loosen their icebound throats, speaking in low, silver voices. Nothing rushes. Everything unfolds at the speed of trust. Spring teaches patience that becoming is not a race, but a rhythm. That the world's greatest miracles begin quietly, in darkness, beneath our feet. When you walk among the first blades of grass, you can feel the earth's slow heartbeat, steady, kind, unhurried. Each droplet on the soil's surface glows like memory. Each breeze a gentle reminder that life never stopped, it only paused to breathe. The thaw, the warmth, the bloom, they are not beginnings. They are returns. And as light finds its way into every root, the world smiles in green again. When summer arrives, the world expands. Light stretches long across the horizon, spilling warmth into rivers, trees, and the edges of your breath. You can almost hear it, the earth sighing, softly, after months of holding itself tight. The tilt of the planet leans closest to the sun now, and what we call summer is simply Earth breathing out. A great exhalation of colour, motion, and song. Every leaf trembles with sugar and sunlight. Inside, chlorophyll dances, trapping photons, tiny packages of light turned into energy, and energy turned into growth. Photosynthesis, the slow alchemy that feeds everything, happens billions of times each second beneath the green surface of life. But you don't need to know the chemistry to feel it. You can sense it in the scent of warm grass, in the hum of bees like golden threads in air, in the lazy glide of clouds too full of heat to hurry. Summer is abundance made visible. It is generosity, effortless and vast. The season when life stops reaching and simply blooms. Every flower is an open hand, every gust of wind a promise kept between soil and sky. Beneath the surface, roots work quietly, pumping minerals, feeding fruit, weaving strength. Even stillness is busy this time of year, growth hidden inside calm. And as the days stretch, the light deepens. Amber at dawn, white at noon, honeyed at dusk. Night returns slowly, like a friend reluctant to leave. The air thickens with crickets and distant thunder, sounds that rise and fade with your heartbeat. To scientists, this is a cycle of energy transfer. To poets, it is joy taking form. And to the soul, it is the brief golden moment when the world remembers what it means to be alive without effort. When you lie beneath a tree and feel sunlight shimmer across your skin, you are feeling the planet's exhale, the warmth of everything that has ever lived, passing through you in quiet celebration. Summer asks for nothing in return, only that you breathe with it. Slowly, gratefully, as light and life hold hands above the turning world. Autumn arrives quietly, not as a sudden change, but as a whisper. The air sharpens, shadows lengthen, and somewhere in the distance, a leaf begins to loosen its grip. You can almost feel the earth tilt a slow bow toward rest. The trees, wise with patience, begin their gentle work of surrender. For months, they have gathered sunlight, storing it as sugar in their veins. Now, the days shorten, the light thins, and chlorophyll, that vivid green of summer's heart, begins to fade. In its place, other pigments awaken. Carotenoids, anthocyanins, xanthophylls, the golden, crimson, and amber secrets that were always there, waiting beneath the green. Science calls this process senescence, a graceful decline, not death, but transformation. The tree does not mourn the leaf. It lets it fall so that the roots may live through winter. What we see as beauty is, in truth, preparation, a final burst of colour before stillness. Listen as you walk through fallen leaves. That soft crackle beneath your feet is the sound of time becoming soil again. Each leaf breaks down, turning into nutrients that will feed new life come spring. Nothing wasted, nothing truly lost. The air smells different now. Wood smoke, apples, earth, a faint sweetness mixed with coolness. Animals gather, streams run slower, and the world exhales one last long breath of warmth before silence. To the heart, autumn feels like reflection. It teaches us that release is not failure, that letting go can be an act of love. The trees do not resist the wind, they move with it, and in that movement they find grace. So when you watch a leaf spiral down through a golden shaft of light, know that it is not falling, it is returning. Returning to the soil, to the cycle, to the beginning. In every drifting motion there is wisdom, that even endings glow before they fade, and that beauty, at its truest, is a form of acceptance. The forest sleeps in colour before it dreams in white, and you are part of that rhythm. When winter arrives, the world exhales and grows quiet. The noise of summer fades into the hush of falling snow, and for a moment, everything seems to pause, not as an ending, but as a rest. Cold sharpens the edges of air. Rivers slow, trees stand bare, clouds drift heavy with silence. It is the planet's long inhale, a deep breath drawn between one heartbeat and the next. Beneath the frozen soil, life still stirs. Roots do not sleep, they wait. Animals burrow deep, slowing their pulse until it matches the calm of the earth itself. Somewhere in the dark, sap thickens, a promise held within bark and root. I will return when the sun does. Scientists call this period dormancy, a biological rhythm that conserves energy through stillness. To the soul, it is something softer, a reminder that even the heart must grow quiet sometimes. Snow muffles sound, absorbs vibration. That's why winter feels holy, as though the world has laid a blanket across its own shoulders. When you walk through snow, each step is a whisper between you and the sky. Look closely at a snowflake under magnification, a six-pointed miracle of symmetry, each one different, each one perfect, each one formed by a slow dance of vapor and cold. It falls, melts, vanishes, yet its pattern lives again in the next flake, the next storm, the next breath of winter's wind. The cold clears the air, the stars return with new brilliance. Night stretches longer, wrapping the planet in silver silence. It is not darkness, it is clarity, a time for reflection, for gathering strength, for listening to the quiet voice beneath everything else. Winter teaches that life is not only motion, but also pause, that the seed of every beginning is found in stillness. It is the lull between notes that gives the music shape, and as snow falls on branch and stone, you can feel it. The earth resting, not ending, but waiting for the warmth it knows will come again. If you were to drift far enough into space, beyond the clouds, beyond the blue, you would see the reason for every season a tilt. Just 23.5 degrees. A small lean in the Earth's spine, and yet it changes everything. Without it, there would be no spring, no autumn, no rhythm of light and dark. Everywhere would share the same eternal dusk. A world without contrast, without the slow poetry of change. But with that delicate angle, the planet breathes. As Earth orbits the sun, that tilt lets light fall differently on each hemisphere. What we call summer in one half is winter in the other. A pendulum of warmth and cold, a cosmic pulse that keeps time not in seconds, but in sunsets. Scientists name it axial tilt or obliquity, but beyond the geometry is grace. This slight imperfection, this subtle leaning, is the reason life found balance between growth and rest. It is proof that asymmetry, not perfection, creates beauty. Watch how the sun travels through the sky across the year. In summer, it arcs high and long. In winter, low and brief. The difference between those paths writes the story of the seasons. Flowers rising, leaves falling, light shifting across faces and seas. Even the wind changes its song with the angle of sunlight. The air itself drifts differently, carrying heat, carrying rain, carrying stories from one side of the world to the other. If you stand still at dawn and close your eyes, you can almost feel it. The slow turning, the soft tilt, the planet's quiet choreography beneath your feet. We move through space at 19 miles per second, and yet it feels calm, because motion, when constant, becomes peace. The seasons remind us that even the smallest shift can transform everything. That one angle, one lean, one breath can create oceans of difference. The earth does not rush its turn. It simply tilts and lets light do the rest. And from that tilt, from that quiet mathematical grace, the entire symphony of time begins again. There is a moment, quiet and easily missed, when one season exhales into another. Not yet summer, not still spring, not yet winter, not quite autumn. A pause between breaths where air shifts, shadows stretch, and time hesitates before it moves again. This in-between is called interseason. Scientists mark it through temperature averages, day length, barometric rhythm, but the heart knows it differently. It knows it as feeling the first cool wind after long heat, the scent of thaw before snow is gone, the strange ache of transition that feels like both loss and renewal. In these moments, light becomes softer. It bends through more air, scattering colour into golden rose. The sun lingers lower, touching each surface as though reluctant to leave. You can see the season change in the angle of light alone, how it slides across walls, how shadows grow slower, how morning feels thinner, more transparent. The creatures of the earth respond before we do. Birds adjust their flight paths. Trees shift their sugar flow. Even insects hum in a new key. Change moves through nature not as a command, but as a suggestion, gentle, persuasive, inevitable. Standing outside in this subtle border, you might feel something rise inside you, a tenderness you can't quite name. It's the body recognizing rhythm, the mind remembering impermanence. You begin to see how every shift, even the smallest, is part of the same circle of becoming. Philosophers call it liminality, the threshold between what was and what will be. And water, air, and light all know how to live there, blending without breaking, changing without fear. The dawn between seasons is not about endings. It is about readiness, the world taking a breath, preparing to open again. If you listen closely at sunrise during these transitions, you can hear both seasons speaking, one fading, one arriving, their voices overlapping like waves. And in that chorus, the planet whispers its only truth. That change is the most natural calm of all. Tiep Tuk. ChatGPT said, Fact 7. The long light of summer evenings. How the sun learns to stay. There comes a time, deep into summer, when daylight seems to stretch beyond its own edges, a golden lingering that feels almost impossible. The sun hangs just above the horizon, not quite setting, not quite gone, painting the world in honey and hush. This lingering light is called civil twilight, the hour when the sun slips below the horizon, but still bends light over the curve of the earth. It is light made by distance, light that refuses to end. In northern latitudes, summer evenings last for hours. The sky glows pale lavender, birds continue singing long after sunset, and even shadows grow transparent, as though they too want to rest inside the warmth. To the body, this light feels endless, an invitation to stay awake, to wander, to breathe longer. Photons, travelling from the sun, scatter through the thickened summer air, their blue wavelengths absorbed, their reds and oranges allowed to bloom. That's why dusk feels warm even as night approaches, because the light itself has slowed, stretching its spectrum into softness. Cultures have built rituals around this twilight. Bonfires, music, whispered stories carried by wind. It is the time of gathering, of remembering we belong to the turning of the day. For a few moments, time loosens its grip. You could measure the seconds, but it would feel wrong. Even clocks seem slower here. The ancients called this the sun's grace, and perhaps they were right, because in these long hours, the world feels forgiven, bathed in light that asks for nothing, offering beauty simply by staying. When the first stars finally appear, they do not steal the sky, they join it. The horizon still glows, a quiet promise that darkness is never sudden, never cruel. If you've ever stood in that hour, barefoot in grass, the air humming with distant insects, You felt it, the slow heartbeat of summer's end, the light reluctant to leave, the day itself learning how to let go gently. In that lingering glow, the world teaches us patience, that even endings, when kind, can feel like love. When autumn arrives, the trees begin to whisper. Their voices are not made of sound, but of colour, each hue a phrase in an ancient language older than words. The greens fade first, giving way to gold, amber, crimson, and rust. To us, it feels like beauty, but to the trees, it is conversation. Inside every leaf lies a quiet chemistry. All summer long, chlorophyll ruled, drinking sunlight, turning it into food, filling the world with the lush colour of life. But as the days grow shorter and cooler, the sun's strength wanes, and chlorophyll begins to retreat. Hidden pigments emerge, carotenoids, the yellows of late sunlight, anthocyanins, the reds of evening skies. Together, they write autumn's poetry across the canopy. Scientists study these pigments and measure the timing, yet what they find is not only biology, but rhythm, a pattern that repeats across every forest on Earth. Each tree changes in its own way. Birches blaze early, oaks wait until the last possible moment. Maples shift in great waves of scarlet, whole valleys shimmering like slow fire. The forest becomes a breathing canvas, alive, fading, luminous. This transformation isn't vanity, it's survival. As chlorophyll breaks down, nutrients are drawn back into the branches, stored in trunks and roots for the long sleep ahead. The colours we see are echoes, residues of abundance returning home. Walk beneath those leaves on a cool morning and listen to how they move. That faint, papery rustle is the sound of time turning. Light filters through them like stained glass, painting the ground with memory. To the heart, autumn's palette speaks of endings, but to the forest, it is simply renewal in disguise. What falls will rise again, what fades will feed what comes next. And when the wind passes through the branches, it carries that truth like a sigh, that beauty is not what lasts. It is what lets go gracefully. Each leaf drifts down, glowing for a heartbeat in sunlight, then becoming part of the soil's dark hymn. In this way, colour becomes continuity. The forest speaks, and the earth listens. The first snow never rushes. It arrives like a thought, a pause between words, a breath you didn't realise you were holding. The sky lowers, quiet and grey, and then, almost shyly, the first flake drifts downward. Not a storm, not a roar, just stillness, multiplied by millions. Snow begins in clouds, where cold shapes vapour into crystals. Each flake is born around a single speck of dust, a fragment of pollen, ash, or salt. Around it, water vapour freezes, growing outward in hexagonal arms. 6 points, infinite variation, no two alike, yet all belonging to one geometry. The logic of beauty written by cold. As the air fills, the sound changes. Snow absorbs noise. Every flake, a tiny cushion of silence. Cities soften, forests hush. It's as though the earth pulls a blanket over itself, tucking everything in for the long rest ahead. Scientists can measure the acoustics, how decibels fall, how frequencies fade, but they can't quite measure the way your breath slows, the way your thoughts loosen as the world grows still. Winter's first snow doesn't silence, it soothes. It teaches the mind to rest without effort. Watch how the flakes move, not falling exactly, but drifting, weaving, circling through invisible air currents. They never hurry, because gravity here is a lullaby. Each flake seems to know it will find its place. When it lands, it joins others. Layer upon layer of lightness, a landscape built entirely from softness. And beneath that quiet weight, the earth sleeps warmer than it looks. Snow reflects nearly all light that touches it, turning night into faint glow. That blue hush you see at dusk, that luminescence that feels like breathing inside a dream. In that glow, everything looks equal. mountain, meadow, shadow, sky. And when the first snow finally stops, what remains is not absence, but renewal. A world rewritten in white, inviting every footprint, every sigh, to begin again. The earth has not stopped turning. It has simply slowed enough for you to notice. That's what the first snow teaches. That peace isn't the lack of motion. It's motion made gentle. You can't see it, but it's always there, moving through trees, across oceans, through streets and lungs alike. The wind is the quiet messenger of change. Each season has its own breath, its own rhythm carried through invisible waves of motion. Spring's wind is soft, full of moisture and promise. It rolls low across fields, lifting pollen, spreading green. Summer's wind is thick with heat and dust, slow and heavy, like the air before thunder. Autumn brings crispness, a gentle bite that wakes the skin. And winter exhales from the north, cold, clean, sharpening every sound it touches. What we feel as wind is the earth balancing itself. Warm air rises, cold air descends, pressure shifts, and the atmosphere begins its endless dance. Meteorologists map it in arrows and gradients. The high and low, the jet stream, the Coriolis curve. But to the spirit, it is music. A global symphony of movement and return. Wind carries more than weather. It carries memory. Grains of desert sand drift across oceans. Ash from a volcano can circle the globe. The air you breathe tonight may once have brushed the surface of the Himalayas or crossed the Amazon canopy at dawn. The sky has no borders. When you stand still on a windy day, close your eyes and listen. You'll hear not chaos, but continuity. The wind is the earth reminding you that nothing stands alone. That movement, not stillness, is the true form of rest. Sailors once trusted it to find home. Nomads read its scent to predict rain. And even now, the human heart seems to match its tempo, beating faster when it blows wild, slowing when it fades into calm. The wind is never lost. It always returns, reshaped by journey and distance. In that motion lies peace, the kind that doesn't come from stopping, but from surrendering to flow. Every season rides upon its breath. Every change begins with its whisper. The wind doesn't ask you to follow. It only asks you to listen. When the air grows cooler and the fields turn gold, the moon begins to rise earlier each night, low, wide, and glowing like an ember behind the horizon. This is the harvest moon, the celestial lantern that once guided farmers as they gathered the final gifts of the season. Before electric light, its timing was sacred. The harvest moon rises soon after sunset, casting long silver paths across the land. It shortened the darkness between dusk and dawn, enough for the work of gathering grain to continue. The earth and the sky, working in rhythm, its glow looks different. Orange near the horizon, pale gold as it climbs. That colour is an illusion born of distance, the moonlight bending through thicker air, scattering blue, keeping only the warmth of red and amber. The same light that falls upon oceans and deserts, once guided human hands through wheat and corn. Even now, when most no longer reap by moonlight, the harvest moon feels closer than others. It hangs low, luminous, patient, a mirror reminding us of the old pace of time, when days were measured not by clocks, but by need. Animals stir by it, wolves, owls, deer, their instincts ancient, tuned to its rhythm. The tide swells a little higher, plants tilt faintly in its glow. Even the air seems to hum, as though the night itself were made of breath and memory. To astronomers, it's simply an orbit, a coincidence of timing near the equinox. But to the heart, it's something deeper, the Earth's way of lighting its own threshold between abundance and rest. So when the harvest moon rises again, watch how it climbs without haste, as if carrying the weight of every season before it. Its glow does not demand attention. It offers it, softly, like a reminder whispered through centuries. That light, when shared, is a kind of gratitude, Before the rain begins, you can already smell it. A sweetness that isn't quite floral, a dampness that clings softly to memory. The scent of petrichor. It drifts through the air like a promise, arriving just before the first drop touches the ground. Petrichor comes from two sources. The first is geosmin, a compound created by soil-dwelling bacteria. When raindrops strike the earth, tiny air bubbles burst, carrying those molecules upward, so that what you smell is, in truth, the voice of the ground itself, the breath of soil meeting sky. The second is the oil that plants release in dry times, stored fragments of scent waiting for renewal. When rain returns, these oils awaken, mixing with geosmin to create the aroma that tells every living thing the drought is over. Even before thunder rumbles, animals can sense it. Bees hurry home, birds quiet their song, and the air grows heavy, thick with ions, tingling faintly on the skin. Scientists measure this with instruments and chemistry, but to the spirit, it feels like nostalgia, the earth remembering its oldest ritual. Rain is not only water falling, it is reunion. Sky touching ground, sound touching silence. Each droplet that lands carries oxygen and nitrogen from the air, feeding roots, refilling aquifers, washing dust from leaves. It is the planet's own cleansing breath. And when it ends, the world seems brighter, as if every colour has been quietly polished while you weren't looking. Somewhere, deep in the soil, fungi and microbes begin to stir, carrying nutrients back to the surface. Life answers water immediately. The earth, like the body, knows exactly how to heal when the first rain arrives. So the next time you smell that faint sweetness in the wind, pause, close your eyes. You are standing inside the memory of the planet, a memory older than trees, older than fire, a scent that has drifted across billions of years to find you again. It means only one thing: the world is breathing, and everything that was dry is about to live again. Twice a year, the world pauses, for a breath, for a turn, for a single perfect balance, when day and night become equals. This moment is called equinox, from the Latin equus, for equal, and nox for night. It is not a day of stillness, but of symmetry, a cosmic bow between light and dark. As the Earth orbits the Sun, its 23.5-degree tilt leans neither toward nor away. Every point, from pole to pole, receives equal sunlight. No shadow dominates, no light overreaches. It is the Earth's way of remembering fairness. In the Northern Hemisphere, this happens in March and September, marking the birth of spring and the hush of autumn. Across cultures and centuries, people have felt this balance in their bones. Temples were built to catch the equinox sunrise precisely through stone doors. Ancient calendars turned on this moment. When planting met harvest, when new life met rest. Scientists describe the equinox as a point of orbit, but to the soul, it feels like alignment, the moment when opposites breathe together. Birds migrate, carried by instinct and daylight. Oceans shift their temperature gradients. Even the wind changes its path, as though the whole planet adjusts its posture for a single heartbeat. Stand outside on the day of equinox, and you can feel it. The world neither leaning nor resisting, but simply being. Light feels soft, evenly spread, not harsh, not dim, like a kindness shared across continents. And when dusk falls that night, you'll notice how quickly the stars return, as though darkness too has been waiting patiently for its turn to shine. Neither light nor shadow wins. They exchange places, bow, and begin again. The equinox teaches that balance is not stillness, it's motion in harmony. That peace does not mean choosing one side, but letting both exist in rhythm. Somewhere, as you breathe now, the earth is crossing that invisible line, equal parts day and night, a reminder that even the universe keeps time, by learning to pause, twice each year. The sun seems to pause in its journey. It rises and sets along the same line for several days, a stillness so delicate that ancient sky watchers called it solstitium, the sun standing still. At the summer solstice, daylight lingers at its longest, a crown of gold stretched across the sky. At the winter solstice, the world folds into night, the shortest day, the deepest dark. Two opposites, two mirrors, one overflowing with warmth, the other wrapped in silence. Together, they hold the rhythm of life itself. The reason, again, is tilt, that quiet 23.5-degree lean of our spinning world. When one pole bows closest to the sun, the other turns gently away. The result is contrast, a balance made not by sameness, but by motion and difference. Civilizations built their calendars around these pauses. Stonehenge catches the solstice sunrise through its ancient gate. In the Andes, temples were carved to frame the dying light. Even now, in the high Arctic, people watch the sun roll along the horizon, neither rising nor setting, but circling, like a slow, glowing breath. To astronomers, the solstice is a marker, the pivot of axial geometry, but to poets and dreamers, it is the universe breathing deeply. The longest day teaches joy, the longest night teaches faith. Both whisper the same truth, that stillness is not the absence of change. It is the point where change turns around. When the solstice comes, step outside even for a moment. Feel the weight of the sun or the cradle of shadow. Let the world's great pendulum move through you. Every breath you take is part of that rhythm. Because what the solstice really shows us is trust, that even the farthest reach of darkness will circle back to light, and that every bright season will eventually yield to rest. The sun stands still, the earth keeps turning, and in that quiet contradiction, the heartbeat of time continues. Steady, ancient, infinite. Close your eyes and imagine yourself beneath the surface, where sunlight fades into blue, and the world is made not of sight, but of sound. Down here, the ocean hums. Every ripple, every movement becomes a vibration that travels through liquid, faster and farther than it ever could through air. In water, sound moves at about 1,500 meters per second, 4 times faster than in the sky above. That's because water molecules are tightly packed, ready to pass along each pulse of pressure, like a secret whispered from one atom to the next. When a whale sings, the melody can cross entire oceans, a low, haunting tone that might travel thousands of miles, through what scientists call the deep sound channel. It's a layer of the sea where temperature and pressure trap sound like a tunnel, guiding it endlessly forward. To the human ear, the ocean feels silent, but in truth, it is the noisiest place on Earth. Shrimp crackle in coral reefs, dolphins click and whistle like silver laughter, icebergs groan as they shift, and distant storms drum softly across the surface. Even the planet's heartbeat echoes down here. Earthquakes, tides, volcanic murmurs, woven into a low, constant music. For whales, sound is sight. It maps the world for them, telling distance, shape, and depth in echoes and returns. The sea itself becomes an orchestra of presence, each creature a note, each wave a rhythm. But modern noise has joined this symphony too. Engines, sonars, drills, machines that hum louder than any whale. And so, scientists listen now with gentler instruments, trying to map what's left of the ocean's voice. Because when we understand the sound of water, we understand its soul, a memory of motion and connection. If you ever dive beneath the surface, listen closely. The world around you will seem still, but inside that stillness, every vibration is alive. It is the sea speaking to itself, to the sky above, and if you are quiet enough, to you. Down there, words dissolve. Only rhythm remains, and the rhythm says, I am endless. Every March or September, depending on where you stand, the world seems to inhale. Buds appear where there was only bark. The air thickens with the scent of soil, thawed and alive. And though it feels spontaneous, this greening, this chorus of return, spring is not chaos, it's choreography. Deep below the frozen ground, seeds are already awake. They count the hours of night, not the degrees of warmth. Tiny molecules called phytochromes sense light's rhythm, shifting shape to measure how long the darkness lasts. When night grows shorter than a secret threshold, a signal ripples through the plant's body. It's time. Roots stir, sap climbs, buds unfold. This quiet clockwork is older than civilization, a covenant between light and life. Even the earliest flowers, snowdrops, crocuses, don't bloom by accident. They sense heat deep within the soil, where the frost is loosening one molecule at a time. To rise too soon would mean death. To wait too long means losing light. So each plant negotiates with time, a precise bargain written in chlorophyll and patience. Animals too wake by light, not temperature. Frogs thaw from ice, their hearts restarting. As the sun's angle returns to familiar heights, bees emerge in rhythm with the first blooms, each waiting for the other, each whispering the same message through chemistry and color. We made it. Spring is not a single event. It's a series of tiny awakenings. Every molecule of air, every drop of water, is part of that rising pulse. Stand outside at dawn in spring, and you can feel it. Not as sound, but as vibration. The planet itself, remembering how to breathe again. This is the architecture of renewal. 1,000 forms of waiting, turning together toward the light. Summer feels like abundance, warmth without limit, skies that never end. But beneath the comfort lies an engine, the most powerful on the planet. When sunlight strikes, it doesn't just heat the air, it charges it. Warm air holds more water vapor than cold, and each molecule of vapor carries energy waiting to be released. As the ground bakes, moisture rises invisibly, climbing until it cools. And then, boom, clouds form, lightning flashes, thunder rolls. Every summer storm is the earth releasing stored sunlight back into motion. In tropical regions, this becomes a daily rhythm. Mornings clear, afternoons explosive. Each storm a valve, venting heat from the equator toward the poles. Without it, the planet would overheat in weeks. Even hurricanes, vast, terrifying, are just this mechanism scaled up, spinning warmth into balance. But there's beauty in the pattern too. Listen to the air before a storm. It hums. The wind stills, as if the world is holding its breath. Then, a cool sigh from the horizon, the boundary between calm and chaos. The lightning that splits the sky does more than startle. It gives. It fuses nitrogen and oxygen, creating fertilizer that rains onto soil. Every blade of grass you've ever seen has grown from molecules once born in lightning. So when thunder echoes through a summer evening, you're hearing creation itself, a cycle older than life, a conversation between sunlight and atmosphere. The warmth you feel on your skin and the storm that shakes the trees are the same phenomenon. Energy shifting form, heat becoming motion, motion becoming rain. Summer is not just light. It's power in transition, a season where the sky remembers how to breathe fire and then cool itself with tears. Autumn arrives like an exhale. The air thins, sunlight softens, and the world seems to dim into beauty. But this glow, this brief golden fever, is not death, it's revelation. All summer, leaves are full of chlorophyll, that vivid green engine that traps sunlight and builds sugar. But hidden beneath that green are other pigments, quietly waiting: carotenoids, flavonoids, anthocyanins. They give yellow to birch, orange to maple, and red to sumac and oak. When daylight fades and nights lengthen, the tree begins to withdraw its resources. Nutrients are pulled down into roots for safekeeping. Chlorophyll breaks apart, and the secret colours emerge, the tree's true skin revealed beneath its summer mask. Cool nights and bright days amplify the reds. Warmth dulls them, frost kills them early. That's why each autumn looks different. a unique chemical memory of that year's weather, written across the canopy. Some trees hold their dry leaves for months, a phenomenon called marcescence. They cling not out of stubbornness, but strategy. Each dead leaf catches snow, protects buds, or deters grazing deer. Even in decay, there is purpose, and the smell, that sweet, earthy perfume of fall, comes from microbes decomposing the fallen leaves, releasing geosmin and petrichor into the air. It is the scent of recycling, sunlight returning to soil. When you walk through autumn woods, you're walking through chemistry in motion, carbon being banked, nitrogen being freed, the atmosphere whispering farewell to summer. Leaves don't fall because they die. They fall because the tree chooses to rest. It lets go. It to live again. And in that letting go, there's something profoundly human. The first snowfall doesn't begin in the clouds. It begins with dust. Tiny particles of desert sand, pollen, or volcanic ash drift high in the atmosphere, waiting for the cold to find them. When water vapor meets those specks, it freezes, layer by layer, unfolding into six-pointed symmetry. A crystal born from geometry, not chance. Every snowflake carries its own pattern, a brief sculpture of air temperature and humidity, etched with invisible precision. As snow begins to fall, the world transforms its acoustics. Each flake, full of air pockets, absorbs sound. Roads, rooftops, and forests become muffled, the volume of the planet turned down. This is why winter sounds softer, not because the world is quiet, but because snow is listening. When you step outside after a fresh snowfall, you enter one of Earth's most perfect insulators. Beneath a blanket only a few centimeters thick, seeds sleep undisturbed. Animals burrow, shielded from cold and wind. Even heat from the soil lingers, trapped beneath that fragile, white armor. Snow, for all its delicacy, is protection. A paradox of cold preserving warmth. Each crystal reflects sunlight too, sending 80 to 90% of it back to space. This mirror effect, called albedo, cools the planet, balancing the heat of summer with winter's brightness. The more snow, the brighter Earth becomes. The brighter Earth becomes, the longer the cold endures. A feedback loop of beauty and balance. And then, as days lengthen, it begins to melt. Slowly feeding rivers, awakening roots, filling oceans drop by drop. The silence breaks into music again, dripping, flowing, thawing. Winter's architecture is made of pause, of reflection, of stillness made visible. And when the last snowflake dissolves, its memory remains in the air, a whisper of symmetry and calm, folded back into the endless breath of the seasons. Even when the world seems still, it is moving, not in waves or tides, but in wind, vast rivers of air looping endlessly from equator to pole and back again. Warm air, swollen with moisture, rises near the equator. As it ascends, it cools, losing its water as rain. The heartbeat of tropical storms. Then, lighter now, it drifts north and south, eventually sinking near 30 degrees latitude, where deserts form under the descending dry air. These great circulation cells, called Hadley cells, are the lungs of the planet. They breathe heat upward and outward, keeping the hemispheres in thermal conversation. Higher above, colder air streams race eastward, the jet streams. They twist and undulate like silver ribbons, steering storms, dividing climates, and deciding whether your winter is gentle or fierce. When they shift even slightly, entire weather systems can linger or vanish overnight. A jet's meander can mean flood in one land and drought in another. To watch global wind from space is to see order within chaos. Swirls, gyres, spirals, each shaped by sunlight, rotation, and the tilt of the Earth. It's a choreography, billions of years in the making. Birds ride these currents during migration. Seeds and pollen drift on them for continents at a time. Even microscopic life spores, bacteria, cross oceans through the tropospheric wind highways. Every breath you take may carry air once touched by another life form half a world away. We live inside an invisible ocean, one that touches everything, connects everyone. The breeze outside your window might have brushed the Himalayas days ago. The gust that shakes your door could have begun as a thunderstorm off the coast of Africa. Air remembers. It carries dust, scent, and story, folded into its endless motion. And though we cannot see it, we belong to it completely. The air is our shared rhythm, the slow inhale and exhale of the living planet. Winter's night stretches longer than any other season, a slow tide of shadow that seeps into everything. Yet, in that darkness, something quiet happens inside us. Our bodies follow the same sun clock as the rest of nature. When light fades, melatonin rises. When dawn returns, serotonin stirs. As the days shorten, our chemistry turns inward. Metabolism slows, sleep deepens, and even thought itself softens around the edges. This is the body's ancient memory of hibernation. Scientists call it the circadian rhythm, but poets have known it forever. Winter is the season of reflection. The tilt of the earth writes itself into our blood, reminding us that rest is not weakness, it's balance. In the far north, where night can last for months, people light fires, candles, lamps. The flame becomes more than heat. It's defiance, yes, but also reverence. Light, here, is sacred because it is temporary. And even when sunlight returns, its first rays sliding across snow after weeks of blue twilight, it feels new, as if the world had been holding its breath. That first golden hour of returning day can lift mood and energy as powerfully as spring itself. Psychologists have found that gentle exposure to morning light can restore equilibrium to sleep cycles and mood, proof that we are, at every level, creatures of the Sunday. Even our joy has a wavelength. But the darkness isn't the enemy. It's the interval between notes, the space that makes music possible. Without shadow, no contrast. Without stillness, no awakening. So, when the long night comes, don't rush to escape it. Light a small flame. Let your mind grow quiet enough to hear its own rhythm. You are part of the same cycle that guides tides, frost, and stars. Even now, in the heart of winter, the planet is already tilting back toward light. When winter loosens its grip, the first sound is not birdsong, it's dripping. Tiny rivulets tracing their way through snowbanks, threads of light sliding down icicles, streams waking from beneath glassy silence. Thaw is more than melting. It's memory reactivated. Every frozen crystal contains trapped air, tiny bubbles from seasons long gone. When the ice softens, those bubbles escape, releasing whispers of atmosphere from years before. A meltwater stream, then, is history in motion, pouring fragments of old winds back into the world. The physics of thaw are poetry disguised as temperature. Heat moves into solid ice. Molecules shake faster. Bonds loosen, but not evenly. Cracks appear. Fractures spread. And suddenly, what seemed still begins to flow. No two drops follow the same path. Each one carries minerals, microbes, and light, weaving new rivers across landscapes reborn. To nature, thaw means possibility. Seeds awaken as the ground softens. Roots drink again. Animals emerge from sleep, their paws sinking into the wet earth that smells faintly of return. And when sunlight touches frozen lakes, melting begins from beneath. A secret alchemy of warmth rising from dark water. From below, from within, just like all healing does. Thaw teaches the gentlest kind of strength. The kind that doesn't shatter to change, but dissolves. It reminds us that even the hardest seasons must someday learn how to let go. Every cloud you've ever seen began as something humble. A puddle, a drop, a wave, water that dared to leave the surface and become sky. Evaporation is not escape. It's transformation. When sunlight touches water, molecules break free from their liquid bonds, rising into air invisible, weightless. They drift higher, cooling as they go, until they meet dust, salt, or pollen. There, they gather, forming droplets again, too tiny to fall, but enough to turn light into texture. A cloud is simply water remembering shape. From a plane, clouds look soft, but inside, they are fierce, alive with turbulence. Each billow is a contest of heat and motion, updrafts pushing, downdrafts pulling. Within them, droplets collide, merge, split, charging the air with electricity. That's how storms are born, from the friction of countless reunions. Yet not all clouds bring rain. Some drift quietly, scattering sunlight into colour. Cirrus threads, stratus veils, cumulus towers, each a different form of the same idea, that nothing ever truly leaves, it only changes its form of return. When you watch a cloud dissolve, you're witnessing equilibrium, a perfect negotiation between air and vapour. It vanishes not because it dies, but because it finds balance again. Clouds are the handwriting of the sky. They tell the story of pressure, heat, and humidity. But to the heart, they write something simpler, a reminder that lightness can come from learning how to rise and still know how to fall. When rain ends, the world still hums with water, and sometimes, in that shimmer, light decides to speak. A rainbow is sunlight slowed and scattered, a brief unravelling of colour hidden in white. Each droplet acts as a tiny prism, bending light at 42 degrees. That precise angle determines the arc, the curve we all know, though no two people ever see the same rainbow. Each stands within their own circle of vision, each rainbow private and fleeting. Inside that curve lies the full spectrum of sunlight, red stretched longest, violet shortest. Beyond them are wavelengths unseen. Infrared warmth, ultraviolet fire. Rainbows are just the visible echo of an infinite spectrum that surrounds us always, whether our eyes can name it or not. The air after rain smells of earth and renewal, and within that scent, the colours seem deeper, greens pulse brighter, skies feel newly washed. It's as if the light itself has been baptised by water. In ancient stories, the rainbow was a bridge between heaven and earth, between storm and calm. But in truth, it is a collaboration, sun and rain agreeing, for a moment, to make beauty visible. Stand quietly when it appears. Don't chase it. It is not meant to be caught. It exists only as long as the light and the droplets align perfectly, a lesson in impermanence and grace. When the last colour fades, the world feels whole again, washed, balanced, and briefly illuminated by the secret language of light. Every shoreline breathes, though we rarely notice. The sea rises and falls as if inhaling and exhaling. A motion older than continents, older than life itself. This rhythm is the tide, the ocean's quiet obedience to the pull of the moon. Gravity is invisible, but not silent. As the moon circles Earth, its pull stretches the oceans into two long bulges, one facing the moon, one on the far side. Earth spins beneath these bulges, so the tides sweep around the globe like slow-moving waves. High tide is simply the place where the sea lifts its face toward the moon's distant hand. Every 6 hours or so, the ocean shifts from flood to ebb, a heartbeat of salt and gravity. The sun adds its influence too, sometimes pulling with the moon, sometimes against it. When they align, we get spring tides, higher highs, lower lows. When they oppose, we get neap tides, gentler, restrained. Even in its rest, the sea remembers to move. Tides sculpt shorelines, carry nutrients, guide migrations of fish and crabs. They govern the feeding times of seabirds, the rhythm of coral spawning, the shape of coastal life. To stand by the shore is to listen to the planet breathe, once with the moon, once with the sun, and always with the pulse of water. If you close your eyes near a midnight tide, you can feel the world sway slightly beneath your feet. That's the earth itself responding, its oceans flexing, its crust bowing by centimeters, its very bones remembering the pull of its companion in the sky. The tides are a conversation without words, a reminder that gravity is not control, but connection, a silent tether between two worlds, forever dancing in liquid time. Far above the Arctic Circle, there are summers where the sun forgets to set. It rolls around the horizon like a golden coin, glowing endlessly, never falling below the edge of the world. This is the midnight sun, a season where time feels suspended and the boundary between night and day disappears. The reason is geometry. Earth's tilt holding one pole steady in the sunlight, while the other hides in shadow. For months, the Arctic basks under perpetual day, then reverses into endless night. The line between them shifts as the planet turns, a great circle of twilight travelling across the globe. To live under the midnight sun is to lose your sense of time. People report strange dreams, restless energy, and a kind of waking wonder, as if the world has forgotten how to sleep. Animals adapt too. Birds feed without pause, plants photosynthesize round the clock, and the land hums with constant activity. But even endless light carries a shadow. When the sun finally dips below the horizon, darkness returns, with ferocity, a reminder that every abundance needs its opposite. Scientists studying the Arctic find that 24-hour sunlight triggers blooms of plankton under melting ice, turning the ocean turquoise with life. It's a fleeting paradise of growth, in a world usually defined by frost. The midnight sun, then, is not just light, it's nourishment. A season where the poles of the planet breathe life back into the sea. Stand under it once, and you understand how fragile balance is. Too much dark, and the world freezes. Too much light, and it burns. Between them lies the miracle of rhythm, a spinning planet learning, each year, how to alternate between silence and song. When the Arctic turns away from the sun, a different kind of beauty begins. For months, the sky never brightens beyond twilight, and yet it glows. The snow reflects starlight, the air dances with auroras, and the darkness feels almost alive. This is polar night, a season of shadow that never fully swallows the world. Here, time stretches thin. The boundary between sleep and waking softens. Even the clock seems unsure. People speak of losing hours, of feeling both calm and melancholy, as if living inside a dream that forgets to end. Above them, solar winds strike the magnetic field, and the aurora borealis unfolds. Green, violet, red. Curtains of light rippling across the cold sky. They shimmer because charged particles from the sun collide with oxygen and nitrogen, exciting them into colour. Each glow is a message from the star that still burns far beyond the horizon. The animals adjust in their own ways. Seals sleep longer. Polar bears conserve energy. Tiny algae beneath the ice use faint glimmers of starlight to keep alive. Life doesn't stop. It just slows to match the pace of shadow. For the people who call this home, darkness is not absence. It's a different texture of light. Bluer, quieter, deeper. Candles flicker in windows. Voices echo across snow. Even silence has tone. And when, finally, the first edge of dawn returns in spring, a pale ribbon along the horizon, it feels like a resurrection. The world exhales, and the long night releases its hold. For all its stillness, the polar night teaches one radiant truth. Darkness, too, can glow. Beneath the quiet crust of mountains and oceans, the earth still burns. A slow, patient fire older than sunlight flows beneath us, shaping continents and feeding life in ways unseen. This heat is geothermal energy, born from the radioactive decay of elements buried deep in the mantle. Uranium, thorium, potassium, all releasing small bursts of warmth, atom by atom, year by year. It's the planet's ancient heartbeat, the same pulse that forged volcanoes, built islands, and keeps our core molten. Far below, temperatures climb to over 6,000 degrees Celsius, as hot as the surface of the Sunday. Pressure squeezes matter into strange forms, rocks that flow like syrup, iron that spins like a liquid magnet. This rotation of molten metal generates Earth's magnetic field, a vast invisible shield protecting life from cosmic radiation. Sometimes the planet exhales. Steam vents hiss in Iceland's mossy plains. Geysers roar in Yellowstone, shooting columns of boiling water skyward, brief messages from the deep. Volcanoes, too, are part of this breathing. Not destruction, but renewal. Ash nourishes soil, lava cools into fertile stone. From the Earth's fury, forests are born. Even the ocean floor bears witness. Hydrothermal vents, spewing black clouds of minerals, host ecosystems thriving without sunlight. Creatures here feed not on photosynthesis, but on chemosynthesis, drawing energy from the heat itself. Life, it seems, doesn't need the sky to survive. To touch the Earth's warmth is to feel time condensed. Every stone underfoot is a cooled fragment of fire, every mountain a frozen wave of once molten rock. Our planet is not dead stone, it's a living ember, glowing softly beneath the surface, teaching us that creation is not silent, it hums. Out in the vast Pacific, land is being born right now. Invisible beneath the waves, a volcano erupts slowly, relentlessly, building itself one layer at a time. Most islands are not fragments that broke away. They are newcomers, forged from molten rock that pushed through the seafloor. As lava meets cold seawater, it shatters, steams, and cools into black glass. Over centuries, eruption after eruption stacks these fragments higher, until one day a tip breaches the surface. A newborn island steaming under open sky. Hawaii, Iceland, the Galapagos. All are children of this process, their existence proof that the Earth is still creating itself. Even after millennia of erosion, new land continues to rise, balanced by the sea's slow, patient hand. When volcanic ash settles, it carries minerals, iron, sulfur, potassium, that make the soil extraordinarily fertile. Within decades, mosses arrive, then ferns, then flowers, then birds carrying seeds across the wind. Life follows fire like a shadow, turning devastation into renewal. Scientists call this primary succession, the gradual colonization of barren land. But to the poetic eye, it is faith made visible, the certainty that even from the deepest darkness, something can grow. Somewhere beneath the Pacific now, a new island is forming, its foundation hidden, its future already blooming in the mind of the sea. And one day, when it finally rises into air, it will carry the memory of magma and the promise that creation never ends. It only changes shape. Far below the waves, beyond sunlight, beyond sound, the sea folds into itself. There, in the abyssal trenches, pressure grows so immense that steel would crush like paper. The deepest of these, the Mariana Trench, sinks nearly 11 kilometers, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. At that depth, light is meaningless. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and yet, life persists. Creatures here glow with their own light bioluminescence, a gentle blue shimmer used to lure, warn, or speak. Fish with translucent skin, shrimp that flash in bursts like stars, gelatinous forms drifting in endless dark, a cosmos beneath the sea. Sound travels differently here, thicker and longer, turning distant echoes into songs that last minutes. Even a whale's call, descending from above, stretches and bends as if underwater gravity were playing with time. The pressure over 1,000 times that at the surface forces life to evolve in impossible ways. Bones soften, fluids thicken, bodies adapt to what would crush anything else, and still they thrive. Some feed on methane seeps, others drift for centuries, untouched by surface storms. To study these depths, scientists send unmanned submersibles tiny lights descending through black silence. Each mission returns not just data, but wonder, proof that life can exist wherever balance finds it. The deep sea is not empty. It's ancient, a slow heartbeat beneath all motion, a cathedral of darkness where evolution moves at the pace of eternity. If you could float there, weightless, soundless, you'd understand why silence is sacred. In that stillness, you'd feel the planet itself breathing, and it would sound like peace. Follow any river long enough, and it will tell you its story. Each bend, each ripple, each stone worn smooth. They are all sentences in a liquid language that has been spoken for billions of years. Rivers are not born, they awaken. They begin as meltwater or rain, tiny trickles finding the easiest path downhill. Those paths deepen, braid, merge, turning into channels that carve the land like veins across skin. Every drop of rain that falls eventually joins this pulse, drawn toward the sea, as if obeying a memory older than mountains. Inside that flow, life thrives. Not just fish and plants, but microorganisms invisible to the eye. They carry oxygen, carbon, minerals, feeding forests hundreds of miles away. When a river floods, it doesn't destroy, it replenishes. It spreads silt across plains, building soil that will feed generations to come. Scientists can trace the history of rain in a single molecule of water. Isotopes reveal where it evaporated, how far it traveled, how high the clouds that birthed it rose. In this way, a river is also a timeline, a map of the planet's breathing, from glacier to ocean to sky. Stand beside a river and listen closely. You'll hear more than water. You'll hear persistence, movement without haste, purpose without urgency. It's the same rhythm that flows through our veins. Our blood, too, is saltwater reshaped. The ocean carried within us, still moving, still remembering. Rivers teach us that direction is not the same as speed, that sometimes the longest way is the only way that endures. They remind us that every path, no matter how winding, leads home, to the sea, to silence, to beginning again. And when a river finally meets the ocean, it doesn't end, it expands. The fresh water merges with salt, and the story begins again, repeated endlessly in the quiet voice of water, remembering itself. Beneath the surface of warm tropical seas lies a metropolis built not by human hands, but by tiny architects called coral polyps. Each smaller than a grain of rice, they work together to build cathedrals of stone. Corals are animals, not plants, and their skeletons are made of calcium carbonate, exhaled from their bodies like a steady breath of creation. They live symbiotically with algae called zooxanthellae, which turn sunlight into food. In return, the coral offers shelter, a perfect circle of giving and receiving. Over thousands of years, these partnerships accumulate into reefs so vast, they can be seen from space. The Great Barrier Reef stretches more than 2,300 kilometers, a living structure that houses a quarter of all marine species. Fish weave between coral branches like sparks of color, crabs, anemones, sea fans, each finding a home in the architecture of light. At night, reefs transform. Bioluminescent plankton shimmer through the water. Predators hunt in slow motion, and the coral itself glows faintly, as if remembering the sun that fed it. But these cities are delicate. When the ocean warms even slightly, the coral expels its algae, a phenomenon called bleaching. Color drains away, and the city grows pale, a ghost of itself. Some recover when temperatures drop, others do not. Yet even in loss, the ocean persists in rebuilding. New coral larvae drift in from distant waters, settling, growing, repainting the ruins with color once again. A coral reef is more than beauty. It is balance, a collaboration between light, water, and time. It teaches us that creation is not one act, but a constant act of tending. Beneath those turquoise waves, the ocean is not empty. It is building, breathing, and dreaming. Stone by stone, cell by cell, forever remaking its own masterpiece. Before dawn, the world blurs. Fields soften, forests vanish, and the air thickens into quiet silver. This is fog, a sky that has forgotten to rise. Fog forms when warm air meets cool ground. As the air cools, its moisture condenses into tiny droplets, too small to fall as rain, too heavy to stay invisible. The result is suspension, a thin ocean floating in air. Each droplet is a mirror. Light scatters softly through billions of them, turning sharp edges into dream. Sound moves differently here too, slower, rounder, as if every noise has been wrapped in wool. Fog doesn't erase the world, it edits it. It removes the unnecessary, leaving only what's close. The tree you can't see is still there, but for now, your focus narrows to the space of breath and heartbeat. It's nature's way of inviting you inward. In valleys, fog pools like rivers of air. Over the sea, it rolls in waves. Dense, alive, whispering salt. Sailors once called it the sea's cloak, a veil that hides and protects. Scientists see fog as microclimate, tiny droplets reflecting humidity, wind, and heat. But to those who walk through it, it feels like magic, the meeting of heaven and earth in a single breath. When sunlight finally pierces through, the fog doesn't vanish, it transforms. Droplets evaporate, turning back into invisible vapor, lifting slowly into the sky. Fog teaches presence. It asks nothing but attention. It reminds us that clarity isn't always found by seeing more. Sometimes it's found by seeing less. And as it fades, you realize it never really left. It only changed form, like every mystery of the natural world does. Stand in an open meadow at dusk and listen, not to birds, not to insects, but to the soft hiss beneath it all, the whisper that moves when the wind bends the blades. That sound, endless, low, shimmering, is the earth's oldest song. Each blade of grass vibrates as wind slides past it. Billions of tiny reeds, each tuned to its own invisible frequency. Together, they form a living instrument, one that hums not for the ear, but for the skin and the breath. Scientists call this aeolian vibration, from the Greek god of wind, Aeolus. It's the same principle that makes a flute sing or a wire hum. When air flows steadily over thin, flexible surfaces, it creates waves of pressure, rippling through the landscape. Grasslands, deserts, even fields of wheat can generate frequencies so low they are felt more than heard. In the Serengeti, these tones merge with the buzz of insects and the rustle of leaves, a natural symphony that guides animal behavior. Creatures sense the pattern, using sound to orient, to rest, to migrate. The world, it turns out, is always playing something. We simply forget how to listen. Even after the harvest, dry stalks continue their quiet percussion. Wind through stubble, through reeds, through hollow stems beside rivers. A memory of movement, a dialogue between air and earth. To walk through tall grass is to enter that conversation. Your steps add new rhythm, your breathing new harmony. The planet hums back, reminding you that silence is only the space between notes, and as the evening deepens, the song fades into itself. Wind, field, breath, all returning to the same stillness from which sound is born. Mountains look eternal, but they are breathing, just too slowly for us to see. Deep beneath their ridges, rock is not entirely solid. Over millennia, pressure and heat make it flow. An ancient crawl that reshapes continents. This slow motion is called isostatic rebound, a phenomenon that occurs as glaciers melt, and the crust, once weighed down by ice, rises inch by inch toward the sky. It's the planet stretching after a long sleep. Even without ice, mountains evolve. Rain carves gullies, frost pries open cracks, roots split stone. The dust from these crumblings becomes soil, feeding forests that, in turn, hold the slopes together. Destruction and creation are the same breath, drawn at different speeds. Inside, the earth murmurs, tectonic plates drift, a few centimeters a year, about the pace of fingernail growth. But when they collide, they rise in sudden exhalations. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, each a frozen wave of motion. Even standing still, a mountain is moving. It sways slightly in strong winds. It expands during the day, contracts at night. It trembles with distant quakes, and sings faintly with deep vibrations known as seismic hums. Notes too low for ears, but detectable by instruments. These hums reveal that stone is not silent. It resonates. The planet's crust rings like a bell, each time a wave of energy passes through. We walk upon an instrument, and every storm, every ocean swell, plays it. To climb a mountain, then, is not to conquer stillness, but to touch motion slowed to its purest form, a reminder that endurance is just movement stretched thin through time. Every gust carries cargo: dust, pollen, spores, seeds. The air is full of beginnings. When plants release their seeds, they trust the wind to finish the story. Some spin like tiny helicopters, maple samaras twirling on invisible threads. Some ride on silk, dandelions drifting across whole valleys, each one a floating wish. Others, like orchids, produce seeds so small they could fill a teaspoon by the million, light enough to cross oceans unseen. This is anemochory, the dispersal of life by air. It's how forests migrate, how deserts bloom again after centuries. The wind, indifferent yet faithful, becomes gardener to the world. Every continent bears its signature. Grasses evolved slender sails, pines send grains of pollen, fine as smoke to find their match miles away. Even mosses rely on the slightest stir of air to scatter their spores into tomorrow. To the human eye, a drifting seed looks fragile, but inside that softness lies extraordinary endurance, a shell that can sleep for decades, waiting for warmth and rain. Some seeds, found buried beneath ice for tens of thousands of years, have sprouted when given light again. When you see a seed float by, you're watching both memory and prophecy. It carries the story of where it came from and the dream of where it might land. Breathe deeply. You're inhaling fragments of 1,000 forests. You are part of the same cycle, one that turns wind into motion, motion into growth, and growth back into sky. The air, it turns out, is not empty at all. It's full of tiny promises. Learning how to fly, stand by the sea at sunrise, and you will see the sky looking back at itself. Each ripple, each crest of foam is a mirror in motion, reflecting, bending, reshaping light into living silk. The ocean doesn't just reflect light, it sculpts it. As sunlight hits the surface, some rays bounce upward, some dive inward, fracturing into beams that scatter through depths of blue. Longer wavelengths red, orange fade first. Shorter ones, blue, violet, endure, which is why the deep sea glows with that hypnotic sapphire hue. Every colour beneath the waves is light in negotiation, a constant conversation between water and sun. Corals shimmer, pink and gold, because algae within them filter what light remains. Schools of fish flash silver, not by pigment, but by microscopic mirrors in their scales that bounce light like 1,000 tiny moons. Scientists call this phenomenon specular reflection and Rayleigh scattering, but the ocean has known it forever. Even before eyes existed to see it, light and water were already dancing. At dusk, when the sun lowers, the angle of reflection widens. That's why sunsets look doubled, a second sun trembling upon the sea. The light doesn't end at the horizon. It continues downward, fading slower than sound, so that even at twilight, the ocean still glows faintly from within. If you stand very still and watch the shimmer of moonlight across the waves, you'll notice something subtle. It never repeats. Each flash is new, each glint a different geometry. No two reflections in all of history have ever been the same. The ocean is a reminder that beauty isn't fixed. It's movement. Light learning to travel differently every moment. To watch it is to see time made visible. To feel it is to realize you, too, are light finding your way through depth. A single bubble, floating through the air, delicate, trembling, whole. It looks fragile, and yet it is one of the most mathematically perfect forms nature can create. A bubble is a sphere of balance. Air trapped by a film of water and soap, its surface stretched by surface tension into the smallest possible area for its volume. That's why it's round. A sphere is nature's most efficient shape. But what gives a bubble its colour? Not dye, not light within it. Its shimmer comes from interference. Light waves bouncing off both the outer and inner surfaces of the film, colliding, cancelling, amplifying one another. As the film thins, the colours shift. Blue disappears, then yellow, then red, until just before it bursts. The bubble glows transparent, as if becoming pure air again. In that moment, you are watching physics and poetry meet. Surface tension, pressure, gravity, all locked in perfect conversation. Scientists study bubbles to understand how cells form, how galaxies cluster, how fluids move through space. The patterns of soap films mirror the structures of cosmic matter, thin membranes dividing emptiness into form. From micro to macro, the universe repeats its language of balance, and yet a bubble lasts only seconds. It shines, wavers, dissolves. Fragility is not its flaw, it's its truth. It reminds us that transience can be exquisite, that something can be both temporary and infinite in meaning. If you watch a child blow bubbles into the sun, you're seeing the universe explain itself gently. Everything that rises must fall, but while it floats, it glows. The earth doesn't just spin, it breathes. Every eruption, every plume of smoke, is an exhalation from the planet's inner lungs. We call it a volcano, but in truth, it is the Earth's oldest form of speech. When pressure builds deep below, rock melts into magma, a slow tide of molten silicate, pushed upward by heat and buoyancy. When that magma reaches the surface, it bursts forth as lava, pouring light back into the night. To witness an eruption is to watch the planet creating itself anew. Basalt flows cool into black glass. Ash rises high enough to seed clouds, scattering sunlight into crimson sunsets. The minerals release sulfur, iron, phosphorus, feed entire ecosystems once they settle. The ground you stand on now, the stones beneath cities and mountains alike, were once liquid fire. Some volcanoes erupt quietly, their lava flowing slow as honey. Others explode with devastating force, their energy rivaling atomic blasts. Yet even in destruction, there is renewal. New islands form. Forests regrow in volcanic soil richer than any fertilizer. Life returns every time. Scientists track these cycles through gas ratios: carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water vapor. Each exhale a record of the Earth's heartbeat. Even dormant volcanoes whisper softly, their fumaroles steaming like sleeping breaths. Standing near one, you can feel the hum through your bones. A deep, ancient vibration, older than language itself. Volcanoes remind us that beneath the illusion of stillness, everything is in motion. Creation is not peaceful. It is pulsing, fiery, alive. And each time the earth exhales, it writes another chapter of itself. In smoke, in stone, in silence that glows. A raindrop begins long before it falls. Born from vapor, gathering weight, gathering will. High above the earth, in the cool arms of a cloud, it grows molecule by molecule. Around a speck of dust or salt, the smallest imperfection turned into the seed of descent. When it becomes heavy enough, Gravity calls it home. But the journey is never straight. Air currents twist it, stretch it, spin it, turning it first spherical, then teardrop, then mist again. No two raindrops fall exactly alike. Each follows a private path through layers of temperature and wind, a ballet choreographed by invisible hands. As it falls, the raindrop gathers stories. Dust from the upper atmosphere, pollen from drifting winds, the scent of the forest rising to meet it. When it lands on soil, on leaf, on river, it transfers all it has carried. One fall, infinite exchanges. In physics, its dance is governed by surface tension, by drag and coalescence, by the balance of force and flow. In poetry, it is the soul of renewal, the sky returning to touch the earth again. Listen when rain begins. Each drop has its tone, a percussive rhythm on roof and stone, a million impacts forming one continuous song. It's the sound of the planet writing itself anew, and when the storm passes, the air feels clean, because it is. Raindrops have scrubbed dust, soot, and scent from the sky. They've reset the air. Every drop that has ever fallen still exists somewhere, in a stream, in the ocean, in you. The water you drink tonight may once have fallen on the skin of a fern 10,000 years ago. Rain is not an ending. It's a return, the gentle punctuation in Earth's long sentence of water and light. Above the poles, where night stretches wide and endless, the heavens begin to move. Green waves ripple across the darkness, soft at first, then fierce, folding and twisting like silk in wind. This is the aurora borealis, the sky remembering the Sunday. It begins with a storm 150 million kilometers away. The sun releases a burst of charged particles, a solar wind that drifts across space. When it reaches Earth, our magnetic field bends it, guiding those particles toward the poles. There, they collide with the upper atmosphere. Oxygen, nitrogen, and the atoms ignite. Green from oxygen at 100 kilometers high. Red from the same element, but higher still, thinner air. Blue and purple from nitrogen, where the aurora dives lower, closer to us. Each color is a language of altitude and energy, a song of ions turned visible. The aurora doesn't shine steadily. It pulses, a living waveform that shifts with the rhythm of solar storms. Sometimes it dances silently. Other times, it whispers faintly, a crackle or hiss. The electromagnetic voice of the sky itself. Indigenous peoples have long seen it as spirit fire, ancestors dancing, messages from beyond the horizon. And in a way, they were right. It is communication, not from the dead, but from the sun, telling us that light and darkness are still connected. To stand beneath it is to feel both small and infinite, as if the atmosphere itself were dreaming. Even scientists, measuring it in volts and flux, admit they are humbled. The aurora is not an illusion. It's proof of relationship, a magnetic dialogue between star and planet, energy and atmosphere, fire and breath. If you ever see it, don't speak, just breathe. The sky is talking, and for once, it's using color instead of sound. In the deserts of the world, there are dunes that sing. When the wind flows across their slopes, the sand begins to vibrate, low, deep, resonant, a hum that rolls like thunder through emptiness. This sound, known for centuries as the booming dunes, is not legend. It is physics and music intertwined. Each grain of sand is perfectly rounded and smooth, polished by countless collisions. When thousands slide together in an avalanche, their friction sets the air vibrating, creating a tone between 60 and 110 hertz, the same range as a human voice. The dunes of Morocco, Chile, and Death Valley can sing for minutes after the wind has stopped. It is not just echo, but resonance. The synchronized motion of millions of grains moving as one. Each dune has its own pitch, depending on grain, size, and slope. To walk among them is to walk through a sleeping choir. From space, dunes look frozen, but they move. Meters per year, sculpted by prevailing winds. They migrate slowly, like waves in slow motion. Their crests shift, collapse, rebuild. A language written in motion rather than sound. Nomads once followed these patterns, listening to the dunes as guides. When the wind changed tone, they knew a storm was near. Sand, to them, was not empty ground. It was voice and direction. Modern scientists study this with microphones and models, but the mystery remains partly emotional. Why does the earth sing only here, in these wide, forgotten seas of sand? Perhaps because silence itself needs an instrument, and the desert, bare and boundless, offers the perfect stage. At dusk, when the air cools, and the wind curls its last breath across the dunes, you can hear it. A single, endless note, vibrating through the ground and into your bones. The sound of the earth remembering the wind. Stand at the edge of the sea, and you'll feel it before you see it. That slow, rhythmic push against the shore, a heartbeat that never stops. Every wave is a message, carried across thousands of miles, born from wind, gravity, and time. Waves begin not as walls of water, but as ripples, small disturbances created when wind brushes the ocean's surface. As the wind continues, energy transfers from air to sea, building crests taller and troughs deeper. What moves across the water is not the water itself, but the energy passing through it. A travelling pulse, a vibration in liquid form. The great swells that cross the Pacific can be traced to storms half a world away. They may travel for weeks, their energy undiminished, rolling beneath ships, breaking, finally, upon distant shores, as the same waves that began under another sky. Physicists describe them with numbers: wavelength, frequency, amplitude. But the truth of waves can't be graphed. They are emotion in motion. The sea doesn't simply move, it expresses. Calm one moment, furious the next. Its every gesture shaped by wind, moon, and memory. When a wave approaches land, its base slows against the shallows, while its crest continues forward. And so it folds, spilling over itself in an act of surrender. That white foam you see is energy finding release. Every wave that crashes at your feet has touched countless others before it. It's the same water that once carried plankton, whales, icebergs, and rain. It's the same pulse that's been echoing since Earth first held oceans. Listen closely. There's pattern within the chaos. A timing, a rhythm. The ocean speaks in syllables of foam and hush. It doesn't shout. It calls. Each wave you meet has travelled across the curvature of the planet just to teach one lesson. That motion, even when endless, can still feel like rest. Walk into a forest and breathe. That cool, damp air filling your lungs is not just atmosphere. It's a gift, exhaled by millions of living things. Trees inhale carbon dioxide, pulling it deep into their leaves, and in return, they release oxygen, a perfect symmetry of exchange. Through photosynthesis, they transform sunlight, water, and air into sugar, fuel, and breath. Every molecule of oxygen you've ever inhaled once flowed through a leaf. But forests do more than make air. They shape it. They release phytoncides, aromatic compounds that lower heart rate and ease anxiety. The smell of pine, cedar, or rain on bark isn't just pleasant, it's medicine. Your body recognizes it, slowing down, aligning itself with the rhythm of green. In the Amazon, each tree sends invisible vapor into the sky, forming clouds that drift and rain back down. Scientists call this a biotic pump, forests literally making their own weather. Without them, continental climates would collapse. Roots hold soil, branches hold rain, leaves hold sunlight. Every part of a tree participates in this quiet collaboration. And beneath the surface, Fungi form threads called mycorrhizae, connecting roots into vast underground networks. Trees share nutrients and warnings through these fungal lines. A forest communicating through touch and chemistry. To stand in a grove, then, is to stand inside a living lung. You are breathing what they give, and they are breathing what you return. Each inhale is a reunion. When wind moves through the canopy, you can hear the conversation. Rustling, sighing, 1,000 leaves exhaling at once. It's not noise, it's the sound of balance. Next time you walk beneath trees, pause. Breathe deliberately. The air you take in isn't just life, it's language. The planet speaking softly through green. To the forest, fire is not an ending, it's an evolution. Every few decades, lightning strikes dry wood or grass, and flames rise, a wave of heat that consumes and clears. To human eyes, it looks like ruin, but to the earth, it's a kind of cleansing breath. Fire returns nutrients to the soil. Ash, rich in potassium and phosphorus, feeds the next generation of trees. Seeds from certain species like lodgepole pine require fire to open. Their resinous cones melt only under heat, spilling life into the cooling ground. The flames also thin the forest, allowing sunlight to reach hidden layers of soil and dormant seeds waiting for their moment. Within weeks of a blaze, wildflowers emerge, colours bright against blackened trunks. The contrast is startling. Charcoal and blossom, end and beginning intertwined. Scientists call this ecological succession, the natural rhythm of loss and return. But for the land, it is ritual. Fire removes decay so that creation can breathe again. Even animals adapt to it. Woodpeckers follow the smoke, feeding on insects that rise from scorched bark. Deer graze on fresh shoots that sprout from embers. In fire's wake, the ecosystem rebalances itself, less densely, but more alive. Humans once knew how to work with this rhythm. Indigenous cultures across continents used controlled burns to manage grasslands and forests, keeping them healthy, preventing catastrophic infernos. They understood that the spark was not the enemy, it was part of the cycle. Stand near a burned forest months later, and you'll see green creeping through ash. Smell the smoke fading into soil. Feel warmth where life begins again. Fire's true purpose is not to destroy, but to transform. To remind the world that even in the fiercest heat, rebirth waits quietly beneath the coals. Pick up a stone, any stone. It looks silent, motionless, eternal. But it's a witness, a slow archive of the planet's story. Every layer, every fleck of colour, tells of pressure, heat, and change. Limestone remembers coral reefs that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. Granite remembers magma cooling beneath vanished mountain ranges. Even the smallest pebble by the river is a fragment of something vast, a shard of history smoothed by water and distance. Geologists call it deep time, the incomprehensible scale of Earth's past. 4.5 billion years, compressed into the palm of your hand. The continents we know have collided, drifted, and reassembled, like slow-moving puzzle pieces. Oceans have vanished. Volcanoes have built islands and buried forests. Stone remembers all of it, quietly, faithfully. Sometimes the planet leaves messages. Fossils embedded in shale, ferns, fish, shells, the signatures of once living things pressed into permanence. They are not dead. They are pauses in motion, life turned into texture. Every mountain began beneath the sea. Every grain of sand was once part of a summit. Erosion and uplift trade places endlessly, cycling stone from ocean floor to peak and back again. Nothing solid stays still. It only changes tempo. Hold that stone to your ear. You won't hear sound, but you might sense gravity, the weight of millennia condensed. Its stillness is not emptiness. It's patience made visible. When we walk on rock, we're walking on time itself, layered, ancient, kind. And one day, our own cities, Our bones, our words, will turn to stone too, joining the same story, written in the slowest handwriting of all, the language of the earth. Across the heart of continents, where the horizon stretches unbroken, lie the prairies. Oceans of green that sway with every breath of wind. They seem simple, endless, quiet, but beneath that calm, they pulse with life. Each blade of grass is a machine of sunlight. Photosynthesis hums through billions of leaves at once, turning air into food, carbon into structure. Prairies capture more carbon per acre than forests, their roots diving meters deep into the soil. When fires sweep through, the surface burns, but below, the roots remain, ready to sprout again. Resilience written in green. Bison once roamed here in herds so vast that their movement resembled weather, a dark wave across the land. Their grazing, their migration, their waste, all fertilized and shaped the grasslands. Even after they vanished, their rhythm remained in the soil's memory. Every gust of wind sets the surface shimmering. From above, it looks like the sea, a living tide of chlorophyll and breath. That motion isn't random. It cools the air, releases moisture, creates microclimates where birds and insects thrive. The prairie is not still life. It's choreography. And when rain comes, it doesn't rush away. The roots hold it, filter it, feeding aquifers that keep rivers alive through summer droughts. Each drop that falls here finds purpose. The prairie teaches endurance. It knows drought, fire, frost, and still it bends, never breaks. Its beauty is not in spectacle, but in rhythm, a slow, breathing pulse beneath the sky. When you walk through tall grass, listen carefully. That rustling sound you hear? It's the sound of resilience, the soft applause of a living earth, sustaining itself one blade at a time. Every autumn, millions of monarch butterflies take to the sky. They rise from Canada and the northern United States, flying southward for thousands of kilometers, some as far as central Mexico. Tiny, weightless, and yet they travel farther than most birds. Their wings beat just 5 times per second, delicate but relentless. They follow invisible cues: the angle of sunlight, the pull of Earth's magnetic field. No single butterfly completes the round trip. It takes 4 generations. The first begins the journey, the last returns home, memory passed through DNA, instinct older than maps. As they travel, they pollinate countless flowers, weaving colour into ecosystems across the continent. Entire forests bloom because of their passing, and when they reach the mountains of Michoacán, they gather by the millions, clinging to oyamel firs like living leaves. When morning light warms their wings, they lift as one, a cascade of orange and gold, filling the air like flame. Scientists still can't fully explain how they navigate. The compass lies partly in their antennae, partly in the molecules of their eyes, and perhaps partly in the fabric of the earth itself, its mystery made visible, a map written in sunlight. Each migration is a miracle of endurance. They face storms, predators, and wind, yet their path never wavers. When they die along the way, others rise behind them, carrying the same direction forward. The sky becomes a moving memory. When spring returns, their descendants retrace the route north. The same air currents, the same flowers reborn. Life repeating its promise on paper-thin wings. If you ever stand in their path, you'll feel the world slow for a moment. A hush, a pulse of orange drifting like a dream, and you'll understand. Fragility isn't weakness. It's proof that even the lightest things can cross the world and find their way home. Every raindrop that falls has fallen before, somewhere, sometime, on mountains, on oceans, on the face of a sleeping leaf. The water cycle is not invention, but remembrance, a perfect loop through air, earth, and light. It begins with warmth. Sunlight touches oceans, lakes, skin, lifting water into vapor. Invisible, it rises, joining currents of air that spiral across continents. As it climbs, it cools. Vapor becomes cloud, and the sky begins to gather its thoughts. When those thoughts grow heavy, they fall again, as mist, drizzle, storm, or snow. Each drop carries particles from its journey: salt from sea spray, ash from volcanoes, pollen from distant valleys. Rain is never pure. It's always storied. When it lands, it splits its path. Some flows into rivers, some seeps into the ground, and some sinks deep into aquifers, where it will sleep for centuries before returning. A few molecules might find roots, rising again through xylem into leaves, evaporating once more into breath and sky. To the meteorologist, this is called the hydrological cycle. To the soul, it is the world's heartbeat. A rhythm older than bone, a pulse that never stops. Every drop you touch is ancient beyond comprehension. The water in your body once flowed through glaciers, through dinosaurs, through comets that melted into oceans. You are, in truth, a temporary shape taken by the sea. Rain reminds us that endings don't exist, only returns. Each fall is a beginning, each pool a mirror of the clouds above it. And when the storm passes, the air smells clean because memory has been washed and renewed. The earth exhales and the sky inhales. Together, they continue their quiet conversation, forever speaking in rain. Beyond the sky you see each night. Beyond the glitter of constellations and the blush of galaxies, there lies silence. Not emptiness, but stillness vast enough to cradle everything. Space is not black. It's deep. It glows faintly with the leftover light of creation. Microwave whispers from the Big Bang, still humming across eternity. Every particle, every photon, is a note in a cosmic chord that has been playing for almost 14 billion years. Between stars stretch distances so immense that light, the fastest thing known, takes centuries, millennia, eons to cross them. And yet, even across those gulfs, the universe remains connected. Gravity binds galaxies into clusters. Dark matter threads them like lace. Nothing is truly apart. If you could stand in the quiet of deep space, you would not hear sound, but you would feel vibration, the electromagnetic hum of pulsars, the ripples of gravitational waves, from black holes colliding like heartbeats in the dark. The cosmos sings, just in frequencies too low for our ears. We often imagine the universe expanding into void, but perhaps it's not expansion, it's breath. An inhale of creation, a slow exhale of stars. Every supernova, every comet, every atom in your hand is part of that same rhythm. Astronomers point telescopes toward this silence and find not absence, but pattern. Spirals, filaments, symmetry beyond imagination. Mathematics becomes poetry. Light becomes time. The cosmos becomes reflection. When you look up tonight, remember, the starlight reaching your eyes left its source before humanity even existed. You are witnessing the past, and yet that light touches the present, proof that time is not a line, but a tide. In the stillness between stars, you can almost hear it, that faint hum of everything moving together, quietly, endlessly. The universe is not empty. It is listening. And now, as the journey quiets, as the last fact settles like mist upon your thoughts, you can feel it, can't you? That faint rhythm beneath the words, the pulse of everything flowing, circling, returning, the oceans, the rain, the rivers, the dew that gathers before dawn, all of it moves through you. Not metaphorically, but truly, physically. The water in your veins once drifted through clouds, once shimmered as snowlight upon distant peaks, once slept in glaciers or pulsed through coral reefs. You are, in every sense, a moving part of Earth's memory. We often imagine the world as something around us, a backdrop to our brief and busy days, but the truth is quieter, deeper. The world does not surround us, it moves through us. It breathes us in as we breathe it. Each inhale you take tonight draws in molecules once carried by ancient forests, once exhaled by whales, by rain-soaked soil, by the gentle breath of life that has never truly ceased. The story of nature isn't carved in stone, it's written in motion. It is the language of transformation, of tides rising and falling, of clouds dissolving, of leaves letting go, of ice melting into rivers that find the sea again. And through every transformation, nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes form, becoming air, or wave, or memory. When you touch water, you touch time. When you hear rain, you're listening to echoes from creation's first storms. When you see stars reflected in a lake, you are witnessing the universe gazing back at itself. Infinite sky folded into liquid stillness. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the earth breathing, every current, every wind, every drop, moving in perfect balance. Not rushing, not resisting, only flowing. That same rhythm lives inside you. Your heartbeat is an ocean's pulse, steady, endless, patient. Your blood carries salt, the signature of ancient seas. Your thoughts rise and fall like waves against the quiet shore of your mind. You are not separate from stillness. You are its continuation. The boundary between you and the world dissolves. There is no inside or outside, only one great rhythm, one long exhale that began before memory. The sleepy scientist might whisper now, softly, gently, that science and serenity were never opposites. That curiosity and calm have always walked hand in hand. That to know the world's structure is not to remove its wonder, but to deepen it. Knowledge, when held with kindness, does not confine, it expands. It opens the vastness wider. It shows that even the most ordinary truths, the flow of a river, the melting of snow, the shape of your breath, are miracles of perfect design. So tonight, let everything you've learned drift into stillness. Let each image fade, mountains dissolving into sky, waves softening into silence, raindrops merging into one endless sea. You don't need to hold it all. The beauty of nature is that it remembers for you. Every truth will remain, echoing quietly beneath thought, ready to return when you need it again. Somewhere beyond this moment, a river is still moving, a tree is still breathing, the ocean still hums its quiet lullaby, and life continues patient, circular, kind. And you are part of that kindness. You are the vessel, and the tide, a temporary shape through which the universe passes its breath. So now, as the stars resume their slow, eternal drift across the dark, let your thoughts float with them, lighter, slower, softer. You have nothing left to learn, nothing left to do, only to rest, as the world rests with you. And as the last echoes of this story fade, listen to what remains, the hum beneath silence, the shimmer of existence continuing, even when all words are gone. The water in you knows the way back. It will carry you there, through breath, through stillness, through sleep, until morning comes, and with it, the gentle certainty that the world and you are still flowing.